everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas.
I'm Heidi Henry, and I'm in your face.
I'm Murray Briel, saving the human race.
And today, Murray, we're coming to you from the edge of the Great Red Divide like we always do. But today is a very deep day in American history. We're recording this on September 11th. You may listen to it next year on September 12th. But for us, it is September 11th, 2019. And it's a very deep and memorable day, remarkable day in our country's history, and something we need to talk about. So go ahead, Murray. Where were you on 9/11?
I was working downtown Chicago. I was working for a tech company. So my counterpart in New Jersey called me and said that she had just seen the first plane hit the Trade Center. And we had to figure out what was happening, whether it was an accident or a terror attack,
right.
Or we had no idea. And the worst part is we had people in town from all over the country. I had a conference in my building.
So you had people flying in at that time?
Well, I had people in for the conference that lived, all over the country. Then we had people who were in the air, our consultants and managers. So I had 6 that were in the air, and I didn't know their flights or their flight paths. She had 12 or so.
Yeah, and that morning when that happened, it was just the beginning of a horrific day, And when you have people in the air flying like that, you didn't know who was safe and how this was going to...
There was a lag of about... there was a huge lag of time, and looking back, it felt like hours, but I don't remember how long it actually was, but we knew that they had canceled all air travel, that there were still planes in the air. They didn't know where they were headed.
Right.
They could have been headed to Chicago. They could have been headed to Pennsylvania. We don't know where. It was this absolute chaos. So when you have these folks in the air, you couldn't, and everyone's cell phones were flooded, and there was no way to get information.
And back then, that was my wedding anniversary, and my husband and I were getting ready to go out hiking, which is something we used to do when he was healthy. We used to go hiking every year because, we took our honeymoon was at the boundary waters between Canada and Minnesota, because that's the kind of geeks we are. And so we were going to go out and kind of relive that. I think we were headed to Starved Rock that day, and our children were in school. See, you didn't have children yet. Mine were in school, and that was my concern, is I wanted to go and pick them up while the school was on lockdown. It was the only time, or the first time that had ever happened. But I think for everybody listening, it's important to be able to tap into where you were, because we're into generational people that weren't alive when 9/11 happened and the beginning of the Gulf War and the Gulf Wars. And so they can't tap into that feeling of horror and angst and anxiousness and fear that we all experienced that day. It was a horrible day, and one that will never be repeated. I hope, pray to God that we'll never have to go through that again. And I can't imagine, Murray, being in the position you were in, where you actually had people flying into your conference and were on calls with people who were in the part of the country that were affected. That must have been difficult.
All of downtown Chicago. If any of you have ever been there or lived there, if you've ever been to when we used to have the 4th of July and Taste of Chicago together.
At the same time.
At the same time, in the fireworks. The streets would be flooded. They'd block off all of downtown. It's a madhouse. It was worse. Train stations were backed up.
Right.
All the rail closed down.
So we didn't know what was going to happen next.
We were trapped.
Yeah.
Inside of the city without having any way to get anywhere. It was ridiculous.
I remember getting calls from my family that day and said, if anything happens, we're all coming out to the farm.
See?
And I'm like, no, you're not.
This is my zombie apocalypse plan. I'm coming back out here.
Coming out to the farm. Well, they think they're going to survive out here, but we I'll just put them to work. But it was a horrible day, and it's important for us to share those stories with each other to help us move forward, to keep it close and at the forefront of our mind. And it's really important to share with children that weren't born at that time, so they have to understand, where were you when 9/11 happened.
You're absolutely right, Heidi. It's good to remember. It's good to remember the consequences of that day. From that, we have the Patriot Act. We had 2 wars.
My problem with the Patriot Act is nobody ever read it before they passed it.
Panic, hysteria, fear is what drove.
Knee-jerk reactions.
Yes.
We don't ever legislate that way via Twitter or legislation. And that was one of the worst things that we could have done at that time. Number one, when you're going to pass a bill that sweeping, Murray, you need to read it. You need to read it cover to cover, and to say that you didn't have time is just lazy legislating.
So we need to look at the things that happened after that and the mistakes our nation made. And then we'd like to turn that into what we're doing now and the mistakes that we're making again.
Right. Well, in part of our knee-jerk reaction was going into 2 countries that had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks.
Well, those were motivated by greed.
Well, by oil.
Greed.
And here's the thing. It's not dishonorable to the military, Murray, to call it what it is. 2 huge mistakes in our history, to make sure that we don't repeat those same mistakes again.
Absolutely.
And that we can't go into other areas of the world and do the same thing again. That we're generational now at war over oil, over control of oil reserves. And those oil companies control our political maneuvers, control our president currently, control our Congress. And we need to understand that we can't legislate anymore in this country for the sake of corporate America, for corporate world corporations that have oil interests. And we can't sacrifice our young men and women on that altar.
You're absolutely right. We can't depend. You're 100% right. One thing, we are not anti-capitalism. I don't think you're trying to say that we are against corporations.
No.
But for any, I would go so far as to say any group that has enough political pull and influence to make things like wars happen is not healthy for anyone.
Especially not our children. I run a program here at the farm, Murray, for veterans and first responders with PTSD. And it's a free program. Anybody can come in and ride.
It's an amazing program she does.
And I don't talk about it enough, but it started with friends of my children that came home from Iraq and Afghanistan just so destroyed. They were not the people that left. And mentally and physically, they were a mess. And I was able to offer them a place to come and unwind and to try to deal with their fears. And as we go forward as a country, instilling fear in other countries because we were afraid on 9/11 is the wrong response. It's ruined our credibility and caused danger and adversity around the globe.
And we're still pursuing a really reckless and silly and insane path, which is the second part of what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about Crazy Pants, McCrazyton, and
Are we talking about John Bolton?
Shit.
John Bolton, Colbert said something really profound the other day, last night. John Bolton never saw a patch of sand he didn't want to light on fire.
Absolutely. But on some level, I was never a John Bolton fan.
Oh, no.
He's a war hawk. He wants to go to war with everyone. Conservative, old school Republican ideology. He thinks wars make money, which they do.
It's not old school Republican. It's colonialism. It's colonialism all over again. We're going to win this at the point of a gun. There'll be no negotiation. Our muscles are bigger than yours, so you're going to go down in flames.
You're absolutely right.
So, let's call it what it is. It's not republicanism. It's colonialism, and there's enough Democrats that have that as well, so.
Well, he's always for war and an aggressive stance,
Yes.
etc. However,
We are not disrespecting the military. The military is doing their job. They're
Right.
doing their assignments. They're doing what they're told, and they're doing it without question because
that's their job.
that's their job. And-
to obey their orders in the hierarchy that is.
right.
So, you don't get to think freely in a military situation.
No, you have to do your job, and you have to do it without thinking.
And you have to trust those above you
Yes.
to be making the right decisions because you're all working off the premises that this is for the good of the country.
Right, right. For the honor of the Constitution and the American people. And I completely and utterly respect our military. And I just want to make utterly, completely clear that this is not talking about our servicemen and women. This is talking about people at the top that are playing war games with our children.
With you.
With you.
With your fathers, your uncles, your brothers. Playing
My-
war games with
Yeah.
those that we love.
Yeah. So, Murray, is John Bolton, who was always saber-rattling at Iran like we needed to be in yet another Middle East war.
But John Bolton, and that's it, he is saber-rattling, but at least he was somewhat of a counterbalance to the craziness and non-existence of Trump's foreign policy.
Well, and that's a dangerous place that this country's in right now, is we have no foreign policy. We have created enemies
Of friends.
yes, of all of our allies. We're always having a trade war with Europe, or a trade war with Mexico, or a trade war with Germany, or a trade war. Name a country that isn't our sworn enemy, like Russia and
Or we
North
are giving
Korea.
away information that we shouldn't
To
be,
Saudi
or,
Arabia.
releasing classified information from our allies. We've done and changing policy. Donald Trump has decided that he's pursuing an isolationist nationalist agenda. And in doing that, he didn't take into consideration, I don't know if he has the higher functioning ability to do this anyway, but he didn't take into consideration the history that was there. He didn't listen to anyone about why we have allies and why we present a united front and being stronger together. And he doesn't want any of that. So that's a
No.
big part of why we're in the situation that we're in.
He wants to flex his muscle and use the military to help flex that muscle to make him look like the omnipotent wizard he wishes he was. And the problem with that philosophy is that we all have to go along for the ride, whether we want to or not. I don't want to, as a farmer, I don't want to make a trading enemy with China or Mexico. I don't want to have a tariff battle with the UK and
As a
specifically with
solar
Britain.
energy provider, I don't want to have a war with China because my
Right.
solar panels,
Come from
the
there.
little small batteries that they make,
Yeah.
the cost of them goes up exponentially. So then I have to lay
Right.
off my installation workers because no one wants to buy it.
Right. So it's I was thinking about it today when we were talking about doing this show, and he infamously did not write The Art of the Deal, but he is writing I wrote it down here, The Art of Confusion.
That's
Yeah.
actually one of the nicknames that I've heard for him is Captain Chaos.
Well, and the thing is we can talk like that and we can throw those sticks and stones at him, but it's really important for you, the listener, to understand why that is so detrimental to ourselves as a country, as a people, because people are experiencing this horrible fatigue, which is a direct result from constant misdirection. It is purposeful. It is intent to make you tired, to make you, it's just easier to let him do whatever he wants because God knows toddlers wear us out.
So that brings me to a question. We know people are always like 25th Amendment. I think most people understand we can't enact the 25th Amendment because it has to be brought about and voted on by the secretaries, and all of the secretaries
Are never gonna do it.
Right.
They're all-
absolutely not.
Yeah.
They're all his BFFs.
That most of them were unqualified to begin with, and
Yeah.
you have to wonder, if it's a book deal that they're thinking obviously this is money driven, and so many things so many people that, with John Bolton leaving, I want to say we're 400 and just shy of 450 people that have left
This is
key
the
positions in the White House.
third national security advisor.
Oh.
Gone within 3 years.
Talk about instability.
2 years.
Yeah. And he hires only the best people.
And he's on his fourth, and everyone that he has gotten rid of from the first, which is not unlikely,
Yeah.
but everyone that he has moved out and moved new people in become more and more Trump loyal and
Right.
sycophant-like.
Right.
Mike Pence, something has changed with
Yes.
Mike Pence. He was supportive of the president, but distantly supportive. They weren't very oftenly seen together.
Right.
His posts were factual. He tried to mitigate some of the Trump crazy. I believe they were hoping he would keep that center base.
No.
But I think he either realizes that there is no chance of keeping that center base, and he has to go all in with crazy pants. The tweets, or
Yeah.
Trump has just completely taken over.
Mike Pence?
Mike Pence.
I think Mike Pence has Stockholm Syndrome.
That's another thing I was wondering.
And I think a lot of his real hardcore supporters have that as well. You know, where you fall in love with your captor. And, you know, Murray and I saw it when we went down to the Trump rally. Pence is constantly right there. And at the news conferences, it's almost like he's expecting him to collapse and he'll pop up in his place. It's
you brought
very,
that up about a month ago, Heidi.
Well, for security, usually the vice president and the president are not together, especially not out in public.
And talk about close proximity.
Really close, like closer than us.
I guess that technology has advanced.
Yeah.
And perhaps they have a whole big security system, but I can never remember a president that had such tiny space between everyone and the Secret Service. If you look at those rallies, if you look at that, it's just so odd to me. There's usually at least a 10-yard or 5-yard space.
Where we went to go see them at, wasn't ultra secure
at all.
And mayhem could have happened, and that's one thing I remarked to you. I'm stunned that nothing has happened, because you would think the last thing they would want is Nancy Pelosi to be president. So I think it's very odd that they go together. I think it's very odd that they're in such close proximity all the time. It's like every despot always has a wingman. This is like his wingman.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that Mike Pence's tone has changed.
Oh my
his
gosh.
rhetoric has changed. His tweets have changed.
Yes.
Perhaps it wasn't trying to keep the center. Perhaps he was just trying to keep on to his religious soul. I don't know what it was, but all of that is gone. He is completely off the rails, as much as Trump is now.
And Trump is constantly calling out to his non-Bible reading evangelicals, who are his supporters. As long as you are against the LGBTQ community and women's rights, the evangelicals have your back, or at least the modern day ones. The ones that I grew up with would never have agreed to that.
And that comes,
the Billy Grahams are not there. It's a Franklin Graham who is, and Jerry Falwell Jr., who are obviously on some kind of take. I mean, they're just not acting in a Christ-like manner.
Their fathers didn't either.
Well, their fathers... Well, Billy Graham did. Are you kidding me? Billy Graham? Have you ever followed Billy Graham?
Oh, yeah. He's the one you said you liked.
He's amazing. He was... So, yeah, well, I do.
That's not my thing. Yeah, I know you do.
So, here's the thing I've noticed about our current president is that he likes to distract with really outlandish claims when he's trying to keep us from thinking about something else. He's trying to keep us from thinking about how our economy is really not good for everyone. Okay, so he goes down to into his little Bible Belt base, and he says something completely outlandish and manipulates things. He manipulates his base. He manipulates the media. And you have to understand, too, with these rallies, and even with the bailout of the farmers, we are paying as a public for his reelection campaign.
Oh,
because he's doing
absolutely.
this using our security, our planes, our transportation, and he's getting all the free press he could ever want. And no president has ever held these, Donald Trump rallies. You would never have seen Nixon doing. Well, he did when he was in real trouble.
The difference is now. I think you've seen that throughout our presidencies. The difference is it wasn't an I'm Ronald Reagan or I'm Bill Clinton tour. It was an infrastructure tour going around to all the different cities. While that's a political advantage. That's one of the reasons why incumbents always have a political advantage.
Right.
Because even though they're not utilizing their office or breaking any rules, the status of being in an office offers you an opportunity to do things under the guise of the office, yet raising your profile, raising your image.
Henry Hyde was great at that.
So it's been going on forever. The difference is that Trump just doesn't care about optics. There's no such thing as optics to him.
All optics that feature his face are good optics. And did you notice his tan has gone from orange to brown?
No,
he's very
not.
very brown right now. He's less orange, so I don't know what kind of.
Somebody changed his toner.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
self-tanner.
His self-tanner. He's using a different thing in his tanning bed, but he was very brown. If you just for fun, take a look at him, a picture of him when he first was running to now, and just in the last couple of days he's turned brown.
So we have Mike Pence fluffing and went off the rails.
Oh yeah.
We have Michael Bolton, who is now gone, which was the only counterbalance to what I believe is Trump's every despot in the world BFF plan. I think pretty much that's what his plan is to make every horrible human being in the world his best friend so he can join the Bad Boys Club.
So maybe it's to make him look less bad? I don't think so. I think
he
likes
idolizes them.
Oh, I know.
And the reason is because of that power. I think it kind of goes back to that, no offense, New Yorkers, but that New York mob mentality. The power, the respect, the Don, and I mean by Don, not Don Old, but the Don, the kiss the ring, the
Godfather.
That carries everything about him through. I mean, if you think about it, if you flatter him, if he gets press, if all of those things are what you would do to a Don, and that's what he expects you to do to him.
Right.
The difference is most of the mob bosses knew that were smart enough to know somebody is just blowing smoke.
Right.
Where he isn't. So he really finds those consolidated power leaders as mentors, as heroes, not the democratic ideology at all, which is why he's pursuing isolationism, which is why he's so on the nationalism bend. And so I think that that's really what we're seeing. And the distractions you talk about, you might be right. I know he distracts whenever there's a policy piece of legislation. So be looking for a lot more banana pants crazy stuff to happen.
As Congress comes in.
Yeah, Congress is back in session now. So anytime when he first took office, we would see him go really off the rails was if he felt a slight to his ego.
What, are you talking about the thing with Alabama where they just this hurricane?
Not yet, but we can go there.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hurricane Dorian had no chance of ever going to Alabama. Way back when they were trying to figure out which way it was going to track, like 2 weeks before, they said it could go into the Gulf of Mexico. But as it got closer, it was supposed to go slam into Florida and then move up the coast. Well, instead it just kind of went along the side and then, hit the Carolinas and then was done. So here's the thing. In order to prove his point, because he just misspoke, and we all do it, where he named Alabama as directly in the path, instead of saying, I just misspoke, because, everybody does it.
Even saying, I had information that I looked at that was out of date, and I should have been more careful. We're looking into it. He could have said anything like that.
But to double down on it, triple down.
To have Wilber
quadruple down.
Ross
Yes.
contact the head of the National Aeronautic Association.
Right.
NOAA. The one that controls all the weather, making sure local weather is done right and effectively, sent out a communication to their Alabama bureau demanding that no one challenge the president's assumption.
You couldn't contradict
the
him.
President of an organization designed to
Protect the welfare
of
the people.
When you go a step, was more concerned with the impact it would have from the secretary he reported to and the president, that he told his people, don't dare correct him, don't.
Right, or you'll lose your job.
And the head of the Alabama Bureau is an amazing man. He came out and said, screw that. Alabama, make sure you know, let's spread this out, that it's not. There was just a weather conference, and he won an award for his outstanding actions.
Well, here's the thing. If you live in Alabama and the president says that the hurricane is coming to you, and Alabama is a deep red southern state with a low level of education
and communication,
and the hurricanes are coming, and the president said so, you're going to start preparing for a hurricane. And that is economic loss, that's time loss, it's.
At the very least, it would create panic and confusion.
Right.
So, communications down there are hard enough between cell signals and cell reception and no broadband and irreliable internet. So you have all of these factors going against you.
Right.
And you now hear that there's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
So people panic, and that panic causes other panic, but then you hear other things. So it creates mass confusion.
Well, and just to prove he was right, first he puts Wilber Ross out there, and then he takes a Sharpie and includes Alabama with a pen into the NOAA weather forecast charts. It's just so damn irresponsible, Murray. It's just so damn irresponsible and so childish. It's like, what does he need? A fake note from his mother saying, yes, Alabama was in the path? I mean, really?
Yeah. As you can tell, I'm literally speechless, and I'm never.
But we go through this all the time. When the Democrats were debating climate change, when we were having a real climate change discussion, that's when he went nuts and decided to buy Greenland, like it's for sale.
And last week I couldn't quite figure out what was coming down the pipe, because last week was particularly crazy with retweeting about a Swedish researcher who believes that eating our dead
cannibalism.
Will help with
our president's promoting cannibalism.
Cannibalism, and that was the Taliban meeting. And
right.
Murray,
why would he have the Taliban here on 9/11? Why would he invite them to Camp David, a place for peace, where we do peace accords? Why would he even say that he was inviting our most dire enemy to come to the table at Camp David to discuss peace? Is he out of his mind?
He is. Why did he walk after the G6 across the border and meet with Kim Jong face to face? Why? Why was he the first leader that has visited in 60 years?
Well, and the thing is that
because he idolizes despots, he idolizes that mob mentality. He wants everyone to kiss the ring without any concept of the implications that his actions have.
Well, and his hardcore supporters, and we might have a few of them listening, I can't imagine why, for some reason think that this is okay and that we are getting the results that we need.
I don't blame hardcore Trumpers. I'm after this last 2 weeks, I've taken a lot of that responsibility ever since the MAGA rally. I've taken a lot of that responsibility off of those folks out there, because I think they don't have what they need to make intelligent, informed decisions. They don't have the communication. They're built in this bubble that they're refed this right-wing propaganda. I was listening to Ben Shapiro last week for the week, just to see what the other side does.
You got a stronger stomach than I do.
The exact same things every single day. So that drills into your head if that's your only communication. You know who I blame? I'm getting in your face right now, Heidi.
Okay.
You know who I blame? I blame every single administration official, every person who enables, who encourages, who has Stockholm Syndrome, or is just so selfish and has no respect for this nation, to sit back and allow the craziness that causes immense damage from a local level to the farmer we talked about on Friday, on Sunday, to the internationally affects everything we do, and you are letting this happen. You should be sued if you were a doctor, you'd be sued for malpractice.
Well, I think that those that can change the course of the discussion, those that can open the discussion, choose not to for a very self-serving reason. The reason is not because you're a patriot. The reason is not because you're a Christian. The reason is something bizarre.
It's either greed, or I wonder if Mike Pence's deal isn't that he has been told they will lose the presidency and that they will lose the Senate and the Republican Party will be gone. I wonder if that isn't his fear.
And if you think about it, if the Republican Party is gone, that will bring back LGBTQ rights, right? Reinforce them rather than take them away.
What I think is going to happen is the Republican Party will devolve into we've got your teabaggers,
libertarians.
They are going. You're going to get more that are just going to embrace the IDGAF. Who I am, suck it. And then you've got those middle folks who are struggling, and maybe that's why, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and Mike Pence and all the secretaries, and no one is standing up.
Well, and I think about the predecessors to that, and I think, and I'm going to put this on John Boehner and Paul Ryan, who made sure that none of the things that would have benefited the country purely for political reasons under the Obama administration were going to come to fruition, that were going to come to the floor for a vote, that were going to go anywhere. And they were willing to sacrifice their country and lay the pathway to the disaster we have now by their actions, by their vilifying Barack Obama, who was elected by a majority twice. So most of the people said, yes, this is where we're headed. And these two men deliberately stood in their way, followed by Mitch McConnell. So when you have this type of
control and hold over a base, which ties into the party ideology, or the party theory, that it's party over people, it's party over country.
Oh my gosh! And
because that allows them to hold the power,
right?
And anything that threatens that is terrifying. So they will do whatever it takes to try to retain control.
And the thing is this country works better when the pendulum is not swinging. Right now it's way over to the right, and then it's going to swing hard over to the left, and it's going to stay up there for a while as we try to recover from this. And then it could, like we saw after Obama was elected, it swung over hard right? So there was, it just keeps doing this, and that all that does is create confusion and disenchantment from the people. Some of that's very deliberate. If we can get people to stop voting because they don't think that it matters that they vote, that they don't think their vote is important, then they don't go to the polls. Well, when people don't go to the polls, the Republicans always win.
Absolutely.
So causing despair and confusion and fatigue is all part of that plan. And again, I tell you, I unplug quite a bit. I don't watch a lot of TV. I read, listen to a few podcasts, but I unplug. I can't have that constant bombardment. I always say, in the 24-hour news cycle, spend a half an hour with us.
I was watching the 24-hour news cycle. I watch it, and I was watching it yesterday for a bit, and I thought to myself, it was a pretty slow news day yesterday.
Was it?
you said Boehner, and now that's the only name in my head. Bolton is out.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of talking and lamenting about Bolton over and over and over. And I thought, what in the heck are we going to obsess about when Crazy Pants Mick, Cheeto Jesus, Captain Chaos, Screaming Carrot Demon,
Yeah, Orange Caligula.
Orange Caligula
as I
is
like
gone.
to call him.
You know, I
my
can't
gosh.
even. We all have ADHD just from watching the news cycle. So when we have a whole
That's why
day
I
of
don't.
one thing, the
Yeah.
ratings are gonna be gone.
Well, and see here, this is how I picture it. I picture us talking about all the things we can do, that we can do for our citizens, that we can do for our planet, that we can do for jobs, that we can do for our environment, that we can do,
That's why you need to listen to us, because those are the things that we're going to tell you, things you can do, things that have happened that affect you, how to make change.
we need to be as excited about our future as we are about, oh my God, what is he going to say today? And the thing is that he knows how to get ratings. He knows how to get ratings. He's a third-rate game show host, as my dad likes to call him. And he knows how to get ratings by being outrageous. Outrageous. And
In his mind, no press is bad press.
well, and the thing is in the Kardashian Real Housewives world,
That's how it is. In the reality star world, if you get caught drunk driving, you get more time on social media and
Right.
in the news,
But
and that raises your profile.
but we have a country that's longing for Little House on the Prairie. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
But no,
and we want our worst disaster to be Gilligan stuck on the island with the
Well,
castaways.
listen, I'd just take a break from the insanity that we've seen.
Yeah.
So be ready to pay attention real closely, because we have, session. Congress is back in session.
Yeah.
We have natural
And-
disasters happening.
Wait. Congress is back in session. That means he's going to start ramping up on the squad again. We haven't heard anything about Ilhan Omar for a while.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're gonna hear that, and we're also going to hear a whole bunch of stuff about blame the left and video games instead of doing anything on background checks.
And I have to say one other thing. I know that he is going to go bananas, because he's crazy, over
A young woman in a hat. That would be Ilhan Omar.
I think he did that with Maxine Waters too.
Oh well, does she wear hats?
No, not Maxine doesn't.
The lady that wears
it's
the little
Florida.
cowboy.
Florida.
She wears the little cowboy hats off to the side, like a fascinator cowboy hat. Doesn't she? Or is it a big cowboy hat?
I don't know.
I don't. We have some
I don't
very
know.
interesting, colorful people in Congress, in the House, and y'all keep electing them. And if she's doing a good job, let her go.
Absolutely.
But I don't care what kind of hat she wears. So I have cowboy
But
hats.
expect to see a lot more insanity. Expect to see more crazy claims. And know that, but when that happens, watch very closely what's going on legislatively.
Oh, when he starts screaming socialists, that Democrats are socialists.
That's when poll numbers go down.
That's when
When he starts attacking the Federal Reserve.
When
he
he-
did today.
Yeah.
He attacked the Federal Reserve beyond any attack he's done so far.
Yep.
Personally, he basically called them pussies. He said
Why?
he called them names because they won't zero out interest rates.
Well, my son is in the process of trying to buy a house right now,
Okay.
so go ahead. At least for this week.
Anyway, so when you start to see Wall Street going, all right, crap, things are definitely pressure will start to be finding as well. So you'll hear more from crazy.
And I think whenever he has his back up against the wall, whenever he wants to distract, he's going to roll out the four women of color that he likes to
the
pick
Federal
on.
Reserve for
Yeah.
the economy. If anything happens to the economy, he's setting up nice blame.
Well, and he
for-
will try to distract with saber rattling with Iran. Mm-hmm. Okay. And did you see yesterday that Putin has guaranteed soybeans and chicken to China? Have you seen that? He's guaranteed to fill those orders while we're trying to burn the rainforest in Brazil so we can plant more crops. I say if Brazil does that we plant the rainforest here in the United States.
I'm good with that.
We won't have any markets for our corn and beans anyway. So
I think that's a pretty good idea. Or at least even there's been research that shows that wild prairie produces a huge
yeah.
amount of oxygen.
Yeah.
And since a large portion of the country, we used to have tall grass prairies, and the grasses would be 8-10 feet tall.
Yes.
That would produce so much oxygen as well. So
Yeah.
that may be an option.
Well, here's the thing, Murray. Every time he starts this stuff, look on the back page of your newspaper. Find out what's 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages in. Go and read a deep dive on...
because something is going on. Whether he does it intentionally or someone prods him to do it, something's definitely going on. So you're not crazy if you see coincidences. It's actually happening.
Well, and I always tell you, Murray, all the time. I tell myself, if anything makes you that mad, if you get that hot under the collar, it's time to take a deep breath, step back, consider the news source that's coming. I love media bias website because I can check the media source. And I'm telling you, there's stuff that's hot button issues left and right. So I always go with the center. And
I find it so interesting. Go ahead. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check your sources. Keep your eyes open because we're going to have a lot of crazy stuff happening.
Yeah.
We'll do a recap of the debates that'll be going on tomorrow night, the third presidential debate. And we just want you to take a moment, if you remember 9/11, or share your story with someone who, to keep those memories alive.
Right.
And in the future, we're going to be doing an episode on the implications of major national events. Right. So tune in to us. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we're happy to come out and do shows wherever you might want.
This is Heidi Henry saying goodbye.
And this is Murray Briel. See you next time.